Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, July 12th. 2015. I am for the first time using a completely different camera for a Y&R chat. I got a fancy video camera and I'm trying it out. Hopefully it will work. I apologize in advance if anything is weird on either the video or the audio because it's almost too fancy. It's got this thing where it tracks my face to try to keep everything in focus, and hopefully it makes a little weird clicking noise. Hopefully nobody will pick up on that on the recording, but it can record me in HD, although I'm not gonna record in HD because it would take forever to upload a 1 hour HD video every single week, but it still should be a little bit better quality than the old video versions. I'm gonna have to make sure my eyebrows are plucked every single week. The other camera was maybe a little bit more forgiving, but so anyway, just a heads up that's something new and it might need to continue to be tweaked, but it's at least a little bit exciting. So whatever, who cares about all that stuff? Y&R this week. I have to start out by talking about the Avery storyline because it has really gone next level. I'm completely concerned about her. I mean, now we had that flashback of her talking Dylan out of using a gun to commit violence, and then we saw her go into Dylan's little lockbox and presumably take his gun. So the whole situation has completely escalated. It's heartbreaking to me to see that Avery has been pushed to this level, but additionally I'm concerned, as Sharon is, that Dylan's going to get dragged into all of this, partly because of his feelings for Avery and his commitment to her, but partly because of his own inability to stay out of it, and his, him having to get up and everything. At the beginning of this week's show, Paul confronts Dylan about the fact that he basically held Joe hostage and interrogated him and beat him. And as far as I'm concerned, Dylan should have been arrested for that crazy BS in the first place. Why wasn't he? The fact that Dylan wasn't arrested did show that Paul was favoring him because it was his son. So, I mean, right then and there, we're seeing a lot of things going on and around the outside of the law, and I'm not sure at this point that Joe did it. As every scene goes on, I start to just get the feeling that maybe he didn't do it. And this week, Paul kind of said the same thing. I think Paul is trying to approach this entire situation from a very analytical standpoint. There are a lot of women who we've seen this week have come forward to talk about their rape story, and Paul is trying to take a look at it from that non-emotional element. Obviously, that's not something he can connect into, so he's just looking at the hard evidence, and he did reveal this week that there was no DNA evidence from the rape kit, which is so surprising to me. It yet again is just another indicator that they're trying to leave this open, that Y&R, the writers, are trying to leave this open for a reason. And to me, that just makes me think that Joe is the red herring, that he's actually innocent of this particular crime, whereas of course it looks like he did it. All of the evidence, all of the circumstantial evidence everywhere is pointing to Joe, but in reality there really isn't anything specific that's tying him to it. And Paul made a good point about the fact that rape is typically kind of a power move, or it's done because the person wants to show power over the other person. And in this instance, why wouldn't Joe have revealed his face to her? Why would he not have wanted Avery to know that it was him? That's just something that kind of clicked with me. Again, I don't know, it's such a sensitive topic, and I don't want to take anything away from how Avery feels about it and what her instincts say, because she should know. But then on the other hand, she was so freaked out over all of these weeks because of all of the bad things that Joe actually did do. Maybe she did project that. It's such a gray area. I don't know what the answer is. But something in me is saying maybe Joe actually didn't do it. There was this great scene early in the week where Joe's walking through the park. He runs into Sharon. She made a mad dash for her mace. She whipped that mace out of her purse like Victor whipped the gun out of his jacket and shot Jack. I was just waiting for her to spray him right in the face with a stream of mace, but it was great. It was a great conflict, and it was interesting because Joe is trying to defend himself to Sharon, saying, whoa, I know what you think, but I had nothing to do with this. Why don't you think about the situation? Think about what Avery's really doing. Is it possible that she's really doing this to try to get back together with Dylan? I mean, Joe makes it sound like Avery's crazy, like it's completely all in her head. And although Sharon seems to not believe a damn word that he says, little bits of that started, I think, to sink into her mind, coupled with the fact that she's now off of her medication. Who knows how that's going to come into play. But Sharon listened to Joe's side of the story, and I thought immediately that she was going to turn on Avery and go on the defensive, but she didn't. And I really appreciated the fact that Sharon came back to the coffee house after this run-in with Joe, found Avery, and decided to open up to her about her story of rape and saying, that the same thing happened to me. And it's interesting because we've talked a lot over the last 2 weeks about, the fact that YNR's chosen to take this in this direction, and certainly the fact that more and more women have come forward this week to talk about their stories of rape. Sharon, Christine later in the week, does show that YNR has done this before. This is not a new, it's not a new story that's just been pulled out of thin air, and it's just still shocking every single time, I think. But Sharon talked about her story, and I believe that she was alluding to the time that Matt Clark raped her, but she also said that the person who raped her was dead. I don't remember that. I don't remember that Matt Clark died, or was she maybe talking about Cameron Kirsten? Wasn't Sharon sexually assaulted by him? If you guys know who specifically Sharon was referring to in that scene, I would love to know, but it was almost haunting the way she dashed over it. She didn't focus on it, but she did tell, Avery asked what happened to the man who raped you, and Sharon said, well, he's dead. And then just kind of continued on with the conversation, didn't really want to talk further about it. But I wonder if that kind of lit a little bit of a light inside of Avery, thinking, I wish Joe was dead. I liked the tenderness that Sharon was showing to Avery early in the week. It just makes it all the more sad that we know her wheels are going to start to fall off very, very soon. Sharon accidentally reveals to Avery in that conversation that she's pregnant, saying that she just wants the best for Dylan and their baby, and Avery has to learn in that moment that Sharon is pregnant. It had to be absolutely, once again, heartbreaking for Avery, and just sorrow on top of more sorrow. We know that Avery and Dylan had lost a child together, and now Avery has been through this awful rape situation, and it's just, I felt so terrible for her. And I did just really appreciate that both Sharon and Christine came forward to try to talk to her and give her a little bit of strength. Christine shared her rape story, which I don't think I was watching the show when that happened to Christine. We all know that Michael had attempted a rape on Christine, but I don't think he ever was successful. I don't think he followed through with that. So this must be someone else from in the way back that I don't have any connection to, don't know the character's name. I'm sure I've probably seen it or heard about it somewhere, but I don't exactly remember. But I appreciated how Christine is usually very by the book and very evidence driven, just like Paul. But after talking to Avery, she was committed to trying to get a conviction for her, and I appreciated that too. Saying, she talked to Avery and then went back to Paul and tried to convince him to move forward with charges against Joe, even though there really isn't any evidence. But I felt Avery's hopelessness all this week, and I loved or connected with the line she had where she started talking about, I've dedicated my entire life to the law. Now where's the law for me? And that just rang in my mind, and it's just continued to ring in my mind, because I think that is the essence of her character, and that's the essence of what is happening right now in this story. This is someone who's fought her entire life to save other people, and now there's the law's not on her side. It really contributes to what her motivations are. I appreciated there was another confrontation. I mean, for crying out loud, for as much as Avery is frightened of Joe, she's constantly having to see him, and he said something to her to the effect of, you've just dedicated your life as well to fighting for the people's innocence, and now here you are accusing someone of something that they didn't do. So I guess at the end of the day, the storyline is sad, it's horrifying, it's not the way I want to see this character. I don't want this to happen to this character. I don't want it to be the way this character leaves the show, but I do understand what they were going for. It's really sad. If Avery is not able to get the law to help her, then she's clearly going to take the law into her own hands. We see her go to Dylan's gun. We can practically see the wheels turning in her mind. We can practically see what she's thinking as if she were saying it out loud. She, obviously takes Dylan's gun. She, puts it in her purse. She's keeping it on hand, and she's got a plan. And I understand how helpless she's feeling. Joe is not taking any of this lying down. I think if Dylan hadn't escalated this situation with the horrible interrogation thing, I think Joe might have been a little bit more sensitive, but that's pretty brutal to have done to you, to be tied to a chair and beaten and asked to confess to something that you maybe didn't do. So Joe has hired a lawyer, and he is going through with a civil suit against Paul and against the GCPD, and I think it's rightfully so. I think it makes complete sense that he would want to sue Paul and sue Dylan for what happened to him if indeed he was innocent. But it's forcing Avery and Dylan to go through this process of a deposition, and Avery's having to relive that night, and she was clearly shaken by having to sit in the room with Joe, and there was sitting alone in the room with Joe and his lawyer was also completely inappropriate. She should have had someone else in there on her side. I felt terrible for her. Dylan, on the other hand, hit it out of the park. The way he stood up and told Joe off and, said, I didn't do anything wrong. You're the one that did this. You're the one that came back into town and manipulated your way into her life. You're the one who continued to come onto her. You came onto her so much that she pushed you off and forced you over a balcony, and then you manipulated her once again by pretending not to be able to walk and using her kindness, and then you turn around and blackmailed her to have sex. You're the guilty party here. So that laid it out pretty clearly. For the prosecution, I suppose, for anyone thinking that Joe did it, that's a pretty clear-cut case, and it really makes him look like he did it. But there's just something in me that thinks that Y&R is writing a twist here. We are seeing Avery now slowly but surely starting to unravel. She goes back to the coffee house, tries to recover from her deposition, and she did give Dylan a little bit of a coaching session on what he should say in his, but she has one final run-in with Sharon, in which Sharon tries to be really supportive of Avery once again, but then Sharon kind of turned on a dime. I was a little bit surprised by that. I think Sharon is recognizing the danger signs in Avery that maybe Sharon has recognized within herself, and she just flips the switch on Avery and finally lets the claws out and says, you know what, if you're not going to get help for yourself, at least keep away from Dylan. Keep him out of your whole mess. And then Sharon turns around and tells Dylan later, you need to just stay away from that crazy, okay? I know that look in her eye. I am that look. So you need to stay away from Avery. I'm afraid that you're going to end up getting dragged into this. And just at that moment, he decides to brazenly pull out his gun lockbox and declare, you know what, you can take my gun, just so you know that nothing violent's gonna happen. You can take it into the home with the children. You just take this gun. And he picks up the lockbox and he can feel that it's empty and that the gun is missing. And just then, of course, we see Avery arriving at Joe's hotel room and saying to him that it's time that they finish this. I'm so scared about what's gonna happen. I mean, I think we know what's gonna happen. I think Avery's gonna end up shooting Joe, and I think that at the same time we also saw this scene of Paul just at the tail end of Friday's show getting a phone call from one of his officers, and they were saying something. He was saying something like, "Comb it all, get all the evidence, bring him in for questioning." And I think it was, I mean, Paul's got his hands in a couple of cases, but I think that was related to the Avery storyline. I think, unfortunately, we're gonna see Avery shoot Joe. And then at the same time, Paul is maybe finding out who the real rapist is, and we're gonna see Avery now completely alone, having been through this rape and now realizing she's accused the wrong man. She shot, probably not killed, the wrong man for the crime, and it wasn't him after all. And the worst part of it is I think that I could see Dylan trying to take the rap for her. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever she ends up doing, she's doing it with Dylan's gun, and Dylan is the one with the history of violence. Gabe is in complete control of Newman Enterprises. Well, because the DNA says that he's Jack's son. DNA never lies, right? I don't know how Gabe is gonna I don't know how he's getting away with this. I don't know how this is all happening. I don't know how he's in charge at all. I can't believe that Chelsea is okay with the fact that he did not come forward about the shooting sooner, because essentially Gabe said that he wasn't there and that there was no weapon. He didn't know anything about what happened. And then all of a sudden he was saying that Victor was the one that shot Jack. So he lied to Chelsea in that interim. He didn't tell her the truth about that. But now all of a sudden she's fine with it and she's standing by his side. I don't know. And furthermore, Chelsea has been the one who has been very level-headed through a lot of this. I mean, I'm feeling Chelsea way more than I ever have. She's a character I've had a hard time adjusting to, but I actually really like her now. She seems like one of the only female characters on the show that's actually thinking. And it's odd to see Gabe going through with all of this nastiness and clearly trying to out key members of the Newman Abbott clan, really alienating the family and making this big power move, and Chelsea standing beside him and constantly trying to give him the benefit of the doubt when I don't think she entirely trusts him. So that's kind of strange. Neil and Victoria and Ashley and Billy and all of the usual suspects are at the company, and Gabe is trying to restructure things. He's decided he wants to basically do everything for himself, or he tries to take over the financial responsibilities of the company. Well, that's Neil's job. So Neil quits. Of course, he's not going to let Gabe tell him what to do or shuffle him around or reposition him. His name is not on the door. Of all of the people there, his name is not on the door. So that means that, let's see, he shifts Victoria around, shifts Billy around, shifts everybody around, and the position that happens to be open still is the COO, and Gabe has someone specific in mind for it. Someone, with a ton of experience who's gonna just come right in, slide right into this role and take over the company, work those operations and make everything better. Abby Carlton, Abbott Carlton, Newman, you can't surely be talking about the same Abby that I know, right? I mean, this is someone else. No, he names Abby as the COO. It's absolutely absurd. I couldn't believe it. I immediately looked at my screen. I'm going, please. Is this just, so is this a joke? Is this supposed to just give her more screen time, or what is this about? It's really hard to take it seriously. And then YNR shows us this scene where, Abby's decided she's kind of flattered by the fact that she's gotten this position now, and she intends to take it seriously. There's all this talk about the Newmans versus the Abbotts, and she is both a Newman and an Abbott, and she wants to be the one who's going to write it and save the day, and maybe she wants to be taken a little bit more seriously. And so she decides to go into this negotiating meeting with Chelsea, which again makes no sense. Why would Chelsea be there? But she's going to negotiate a contract with Chelsea, and it was just kind of dumb. The scene was supposed to show her as having been competent, as having done things the Abby way. Maybe she didn't negotiate that contract the way Victoria would have, but she did it her way, and they had this whole thing where she was kind of trying to charm the shipping owner guy and telling him she wants to go on a ride on his big rig, and he just, immediately turns over and he's like, hot damn. I mean, like, the whole scene was supposed to impress me, and it did not impress me, not only because of the writing, like, it was too short, it didn't build up at all, like, it didn't work. The words coming out of all their mouths didn't work for me, but also just the fact that this actress, it's not even just the character of Abby is not believable. It's that the actress doesn't make it believable for me. It's all hollow. I was just so completely not impressed. The thing that did really intrigue and impress me this week was the fact that Nick decided to run in to the rescue. Nick has gone and talked to Victor, and Victor is certainly wanting all of his children to do his dirty work and do his bidding and get in there and save the family company. And Nick did come in and confront Gabe, which I really like. I like seeing Nick get up in that, and especially go head to head with Gabe. And it was so weird because Gabe/Adam accused Nick of being just like Victor. It was just strange, because Nick truly is the least like Victor of all of Victor's spawn. So it made no sense. And actually, the fact that Gabe said that to him, I think it stuck with Nick, and he's trying to figure out what he can do to help this. He has sat on the sidelines for a long time. He wants to do something to help. He goes back and he's at his club, his little safe spot that where there's not all of this corporate drama, the safe spot he's created for himself. And he's talking to Sage, and he says, he was kind of reminiscing about Adam and saying something like, Adam and my dad did not butt heads because they were different. They did it because they're pretty much the same. And I loved that moment because it's completely true. The whole rivalry between Adam and Victor is because they are one in the same. I mean, truly, truly. So I thought that was interesting. Sage certainly knows this whole secret. That's going to blow up in her face. But I have enjoyed watching Nick's journey through all of this. I mean, for crying out loud, Nikki tells him to just take his kids, take his comfortable life, and go leave town, get away from this mess. So what does he do? He puts on a suit. He gets a haircut, he puts on a suit. And I will admit, I was kind of, I felt disappointed in Nick as his character, not as in the storyline, because I actually really love this storyline, but I kind of loved, I appreciated that Nick was the one that bucked Victor, that he spent a long time out of the limelight. He has decided to not participate in all of the drama, and I've always kind of respected him for that, and I think that made Nick a little more endearing to me. It made him sort of the cool son, and it set him apart, and he never entirely fit into that Newman atmosphere anyway, because he was always so laid back. But then, seeing him decide to go in to Newman Enterprises, now Newman Abbott, and confront Gabe and claim his position at the company where his name is on the door. He got Abby to hire him, and now he's there. He's back at Newman Enterprises, and even though it makes me disappointed in Nick's character a little bit, I think it's got major storyline potential. I absolutely love seeing Victoria and Nick teamed up together. They're brother and sister, and it seems like we never really get to see them, and they came up with this plan where they're going to pretend to be adversaries to try to lull Gabe into thinking that he can just divide and conquer, and all the while they're actually working against him and working on ways to get him out. So I think it's awesome that Nick has been thrown into this picture. I also really like, by the way, seeing Victoria and Billy teamed up. Both Billy and Victoria and Nick are kind of all working together to create this sense of, we hate each other. We're not really working together. Oh no, we hate each other. And it's kind of neat to see Victoria and Billy teamed up. I've been hearing, by the way, that Y&R is trying to get Billy Miller to come back. I mean, I don't know. I don't count on any casting news until I see it in print, because there's always conjecture on all sides. But I have to say, I would be disappointed in that. Billy Miller was fine, and I liked him toward the beginning of his run. But I mean, I have to say, of all of the adult Billies we've had, Billy Miller's probably my least preferred. I really liked David Tom in the role, and I'm Team Burgess. I like the current actor. I would be really sad if he got recast, because I think he's doing a great job. He's got total chemistry with Victoria. I love him. I think he's awesome, and I like seeing them together. But the sort of sad thing is we're seeing Abby trying to rise. She's clearly over her head. There's no doubt about it that Gabe put her into this position because he thinks that he can manipulate her. It wasn't a compliment. It wasn't that Gabe had faith in her. It's because she's manipulatable, and he knows it. And unfortunately, everybody else kind of knows that too. It makes me sad for Abby at the end of the day, even though I thought the whole big rig thing, the whole contract negotiation was ridiculous. The fact that she came back to the office and she was so proud about that, but yet Nick and Victoria and Billy realized they can't really bring her in on what the plan is because she might have loyalty to the other side, or a loyalty to Gabe for putting her in that role. They all kind of have to come in and rain on her parade, and Victoria especially is vicious with Abby, saying you saved the company 3%, big freaking deal. I mean, they were really quite cruel to Abby, which, by the way, just knowing me, it's because that is the fastest way to make me start to like somebody, is if they're getting picked on by somebody else. I can't stand that. So I think we're going to see Abby getting more and more wrapped up in her job, which will probably begin to unravel the relationship that she has with Stitch. How on earth did Stitch get his medical license back? I mean, the man falsified every single one of his records. He completely lied about his identity. He saw and treated patients under a fake identity, and he got his medical license back. Okay, YNR. So, you know, I called it weeks ago when Ashley's whole medical crisis came up. The only reason for that whole medical crisis was to find a way to bring her and Stitch together. So Stitch is already, he's going to be quitting the lab at Jabot, which is going to pull him further away from Abby. It's going to put him at the hospital, and Ashley's going to continue to have problems with her brain injury or whatever, and they're going to just end up getting nice and cozy in a hospital bed one of these days. I hate Coma voiceovers. I really do. Jack's lying in bed and he's in a coma. I mean, comas are annoying, let alone Coma voiceovers. But I'm going to give it to Peter Bergman because he worked double over the past several months. That man's probably been working a lot of hours. So you spend some days lying in a hospital bed, Peter Bergman, then you go in and you do some easy voiceover work. I'm with it only for that. I'm with it only as your reward. But as far as the story, it's kind of annoying. Jack's in the hospital bed. He can't communicate with anyone except for Phyllis, of course. Phyllis is realizing that he will communicate with her through a sophisticated Morse code squeeze hand arrangement. Squeeze once for yes. Squeeze twice for no, and Phyllis will be able to communicate with him and understand what he knows, and she'll be able to help him with whatever needs to be going on with Newman and Abbott. I mean, Jack's in a hospital bed. He needs to be mostly concerned about Victor. In fact, I was surprised most of the questions that Phyllis asked were about Gabe and not about Victor, considering Victor was the one that shot him. But first, Gabe/Adam comes to the hospital and asked to see him, and he comes in, he starts trying to give his sing-song dance story to Jack that makes him seem like, you know, he's completely benign, but we're hearing the voiceover from Jack saying, I know who you are. I know you're Adam. I know that I saw exactly what you did after Victor shot me. You made a deal with him and ran off, and now you're trying to take over this company. I know who you are, and I know you're not innocent in all of this. And in fact, after Gabe leaves the hospital, Phyllis comes in and does the whole squeezy hand thing to get Jack to admit that he doesn't trust Gabe, and that basically that there's more to the story, and that he's going to need Phyllis to dig in there and find out what the real truth is, which I'm sure she will. The very final squeeze communication that Jack did for the week was to tell Phyllis that Victor did not shoot him in self-defense, which essentially just confirms everything that Phyllis and everybody else in Genoa City knows. Oh, here we go again. Nikki is drinking again. Ugh, she drives me nuts. She really drives me nuts. All she ever does is make excuses for it. That's the thing that really bothers me. Why can't she just take responsibility for herself? You know, Neil finds her drunk in her hotel room and he confronts her about it. And all she says is, well, I drink because of Victor. I drink because my son is having a baby with a woman that he just met. I drink because my other son is having a baby with evil Sharon. Well, when is she just going to own up to her own behavior and to her own contributions to her place in life? You know, I understand that Victor is a controlling jerk. I understand that he does manipulate. I mean, I wouldn't want to be married to the man. In fact, you should probably just divorce him. I get why you're upset with Victor, but the whole I drink because of my kid things is the most blatant excuse that she could possibly come up with. I would have a whole lot more respect for Nikki if she just said, you know what, I drink because I like to drink. I drink because I have self-esteem issues, or I drink because I'm just not happy with my life. Frankly, it doesn't have to be about my kids, it doesn't have to be about my husband. I'm just not happy with my life and I don't know how to deal with it, and so I drink. There it is. Boom, out on the table. I'd rather have some honesty about it. Instead, she just continues to blame everyone else and to act like it's all Victor's fault for creating the life that they have together, because I've been watching this show for 20 years. Nikki was in for the ride. You don't just get to blame all the bad stuff on Victor and then take all the good for yourself. Again, he's no angel. I wouldn't want to be married to him, and you really shouldn't either, but you contributed to the situation. You fell in love with the man, you worked with the man, you had children with the man, you let him manipulate your children into being a part of the business, you've let him manipulate your children all around. So I'm sorry, I do love Nikki, and I know I'm being harsh on her, but when she starts yapping about how it's everybody else's fault that she drinks, it just hits a nerve with me. Well, she ends up drinking so much that she gets alcohol poisoning, or it exacerbates her MS, and she ends up in the hospital, which is really sad. And of course, Neil is the only one there to the rescue to save her life. I couldn't believe that Sharon brought Faith to see Victor in jail. I don't even know what to think about that. I mean, anytime Sharon or anybody else has to have a conversation with that poor little girl about why her family is being accused of something horrible, I just kind of roll my eyes. But I was shocked that it actually turned into Faith saying she wanted to see her grandfather, and Sharon agreeing to take Faith in to see Victor. Victor bribes a jail guard, and he's the king of the mafia of the jail. He gets the guy to give him a shirt so he doesn't, have to scare her like all the other inmates. He gets preferential treatment. He gets to wear the non-denim version of the shirt, which would be too scary. She can only see her grandfather in position of power, and it was very sweet, and I felt bad, Victor saying to her, no matter what anybody says, your grandfather didn't do anything wrong. We'll be having a picnic and riding ponies any day of the week, someday when I get out of here. And he never will. He probably has never gone on a picnic with her in his entire life. But whatever. He's got, it's kind of, and not only that, but he never misses an opportunity to tell a member of his family that they're a Newman. I mean, she's a little girl, and he has to say to her, don't forget that you're a Newman. You are a Newman. He's the one that perpetuates this whole Abbott's versus Newman, Romeo versus Juliet, thing. He's the originator of all of this, really. But it was interesting. It created kind of a strange connection moment between Victor and Sharon, which I wasn't expecting at all. Victor thought it was Nick who brought Faith in to see him, and in fact it was Sharon, and there was this strange tender moment, so reminiscent of the past, where Sharon said, I need to know that I did the right thing by bringing her here. And Victor said, you did, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget this kindness that you've shown me until I forget this kindness that you've shown me. That's not going to bury any hatchet between the two of them, but it was sort of interesting. He ends up learning from Sharon, actually, that Nikki was in the hospital, and he is able to bribe this guard to get his cell phone and call her, and her hair was so great. When that phone call came through and she was sitting at the athletic club with Neil, I was like, yes, I love your pony. It was just like pulled back perfectly. She looked so good. I love the shirt. I love the long necklace. Nikki looked really, really good this week. But Victor calls into her cell phone and she doesn't have the nerve to answer it. This is part of the problem, Nikki. You can't really stand up to him. Your problem isn't him. It's your self-confidence. You need to be able to talk to him and to explain things to him. And if you don't want to be with him anymore, then serve him with divorce papers. But instead, she shoves the phone off to Neil. And Neil answers like the guy, like he's like the friend zone guy. The guy who's been pushed permanently into the friend zone. And he picks up the phone to tell her boyfriend she doesn't want to talk to you right now. It was so immature. I hated that. And then Victor says, okay, well, if Nikki doesn't want to talk to me, then why don't you come down here and talk to me? So Neil goes down to the police station. He's in a private room with Victor, and Neil starts getting all protective of Nikki, and he starts telling Victor, he's going to protect Nikki at any cost, and I'm not going to let you drag Nikki into your sick, slimy world anymore. I mean, he really got up on his high horse and was just down on Victor, like, you're dirt. You treat her like dirt, and I'm not gonna let you do this to her anymore. Like, whoa, that just seems as though it came out of nowhere. I mean, Neil got in some good one-liners, but ooh, Victor says, shit, nobody comes in between me and my wife. And Victor just punches Neil right in the gut and then right in his face. I mean, Victor's a boxer. I'm surprised he didn't let out a few wah-wahs while he did it, I mean, it had to hurt. It had to hurt. I mean, Victor treated Neil like his personal private gym punching bag. He's got nothing else to do since he's in jail. He's probably been doing some extra punching, too. He really should have, Neil definitely should have suggested that jail where you got the bars, or where you got the plastic and the phone in between you. Yeah, then you don't get pushed. What prisoners get private meetings with everyone anyway? I mean, basically, he's made that little interrogation room his office. Victor might as well have like a pencil set and a tape dispenser and a phone. Maybe a little desk calendar right there in that interrogation room. It's just his office from jail. Oh, that made me laugh. But then Victor ends up having a meeting with Michael, his lawyer, which I don't even think I mentioned it last week, or maybe it was early this week, that Michael and Victor are reunited once again. Michael did say, I wish it was under better circumstances, but it never is. I mean, Michael and Victor used to be very, very close, and then they kind of fell away, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was probably something horrible Victor did, and now they're back together, so that was kind of interesting. But Victor tells Michael, you need to get me out of here. Because I am fine going to jail, I can lose everything, but I can't lose Nikki. And I think he meant that. I really do. I think Victor is just as insecure in a way as she is. I mean, he's this big, powerful man, and he knows that he can have anything that he wants, but you can't force someone to love you. You can't buy someone's love. It's a very Charles Foster Kane. It's a very it's a kind of Citizen Kane sort of story. And I think that Nikki is the key to his redemption in his mind. If Nikki still loves him, if Nikki still wants him, then he's okay as a human being. I mean, I think Nikki really is the key to his confidence and to how he feels about himself. And so even though Michael isn't able to just get him out of jail, which I'm sure he will next week, Nikki ends up going to visit him. I mean, she should have done that in the first place. She should be handling her own relationship and her own business, her own feelings, and her own affairs. She should not be sending Neil, the messenger, off to do it. Nikki, you need to stand up for yourself. She had that moment last week where she stood up and she told Paul the truth about what she knew about Victor. But in a way, that's easy. All you gotta do is, how hard is it to point the finger at Victor? Now you need to start looking on the inside. I'm mad at her now. Got me fired up. That just got me fired up. So she does do the right thing. She goes to talk to her husband. And again, she's sitting there. I mean, she literally said, "It is your fault that I started drinking. Oh, you want to know why I was drinking? Because of you." No, it wasn't because of Victor, Nikki. It was because of you. I'm so freaking tired of her blaming him and everyone else for her drinking. But I've already said that. He, of course, begs her not to leave him. Begs her. And, you know, the thing is, I don't know if she's going to give in or not. And I don't know, I certainly don't think she should. Please don't get me wrong. Victor's not, you know, this relationship probably should have been over a long time ago. Even though I'm forever a Nikki and Victor fan, I'll never be able to get off the roller coaster. I'll never be able to stop hoping that they can just work it out. But at the same time, if it were me, if I was Nikki, I would leave him. That's kind of how I would have left him a long time ago. I would have identified this as a toxic relationship 20 years ago. But it's a soap opera, and I enjoy them together as a couple. And so I don't know exactly what it is that she's gonna do. But you know, the thing is, Victor still thinks in his mind that it's perfectly reasonable and rational that he shot Jack. And you know, whether it is or whether it isn't, whether he tells Nikki and everybody else about Marco, about the fact that he thought he was shooting Marco or not, he still set this chain of events into motion. That his family's life was in danger at all was no one else's fault but his own. Shocker. Lily confesses to Kane. I was really, really surprised that that came out so quickly. Lily learned about Avery's rape, and she also learned that Avery ended up telling Paul that Lily was with Joe that night, and I think that sort of pushed Lily over the edge, realizing if anybody knows about this affair, then Kane has a chance of finding out about it, and I'd rather him find out about it from me. So she starts to tell Kane that she was unfaithful to him too, and Kane immediately was endlessly understanding. I mean, just like an angel, like just, you know, the kind of forgiveness that you would want someone to give to you. You know, he was so understanding because he thought she kissed somebody else. He didn't know that she was confessing to a full-on hot and sweaty sex session. He thought she just kissed somebody else. Oh, I love that twist, Y&R. I love that they did that. That really, it added such an incredible element to it. Just like a whole nother level of, oh, Kane could have forgiven her. Until she has to come forward and she has to tell him it wasn't just a kiss. It was actually sex, and I had it with Joe. And oh, I have to say, Daniel Goddard, I'm probably saying his name wrong, but he was amazing. I loved Kane this week. I'm so surprised too, because he just had this great, understated, kind of low-key delivery. Just not, you know, I mean, the man just found out that his wife had sex with one of his friends. He could have been blowing up. He could have been yelling. He could have been throwing things. He could have made a big old scene. But he just had this quiet realization of the full amount of the betrayal. That, oh, she just did, you know, no matter what, I may have made this mistake, I may have kissed Lauren, but I admitted to it, I tried to fix it. I was ready to, you know, pull away from Lauren and stop being her friend. I thought we could, you know, survive anything except an affair. I mean, Kane really thought this was the one thing that they would never do to each other, and she did it. Oh, it was so good. I was so good. I mean, I like Lily and Kane together, of course, but ooh, it was just incredible. The delivery, the writing, everything on that was just incredible. Kane dropped her like a hot potato. He was like, nope, you had sex with somebody else, we're done. That was where he drew his line. She crossed it. They're done. Oh, it was so surprising. It was so great. The only thing I didn't like was that he went right to Lauren. And it was so interesting because there was a scene on Friday, I think it was Friday, where Kane and Lauren met in the park. And she said, oh, I didn't get your messages last night. What was it all about? And he said, never mind. It's probably better that you didn't, because I would have done something I regretted. But wait a minute. Did you catch that, you guys? It almost sounded like he was saying it's probably better because I just would have come over to your hotel room and had sex with you. We would have had the best sex ever last night, but I probably would have regretted it. So, did you kind of get that vibe from him saying that? I don't know. But anyway, he tells Lauren that Lily had sex with Joe, and then Michael shows up around the corner. And they just let into him. You're the one that started all of this. You're the one that encouraged me to be friends with your wife. And not only did you end up destroying your relationship, but you ended up destroying mine. And Michael, I think, felt so horrible. It was weird. For the first time this week, Michael seemed to have some remorse and some understanding of what he had done, because we saw this scene a little bit later in the week of Lauren and Michael talking, and Lauren admitting that she's leaving town. She's had enough of this. She's going to visit Ben for a little while, and Michael actually opened up to her and said, I realized what I did was wrong. I mean, he kind of confessed that it was the wrong thing to do, and that he was sorry, and he said, I hope you can forgive me someday. Well, man, you couldn't have had that realization just a little bit earlier? I mean, did it take her actually signing the divorce papers for you to realize that? And is there any chance that he didn't file the divorce papers? I mean, are they definitely divorced? I'm not sure, but that made me really, really sad, that he would come around like right after she signed those divorce papers. The other thing that surprised me was the fact that Lily ran into Hillary and Devon, and they were super understanding with her. Devon said, yeah, I kind of heard. In fact, he said, I heard there was a commotion or something at the club last night. No, it was actually really private and low key. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't a big explosion. I'm surprised he heard about it, but he did. He heard about that, and Lily completely expected that Devon and Hillary were going to get all judgmental on her the way she got all judgmental on him, and I really appreciated that Hillary said, no, you were right. Everything you said about me, I mean, what we were doing was wrong, but this didn't happen in a vacuum. There were other circumstances that contributed to it. Hillary made an effort to understand. It doesn't make what Lily did right. It did, and it didn't make what Hillary and Devon did right. But there was an effort there to understand what the circumstances of the situation were, and to have a little bit of empathy, and I did appreciate that. But Kane ain't having it. Kane is not having it. Lily and Kane had a conversation just after that, sitting there at the table, and she's like, so you're not going to forgive me? What are you going to do? You're just going to leave? You're just going to not see the kids anymore? And Kane said, oh no, you're going to leave. Oh. Yeah, I mean, it's not that I want Lily and Kane to break up, but that was so good. And Angela on Facebook agrees. She says, finally, a storyline I can get into that Lily and Kane are in. I normally find them to be the most boring couple in Genoa City, but this week Kane is bringing the pain. First, giving it to Michael in the park, telling him it's all his fault that he put this all in motion, then telling Lily she needs to move out. Can't say I blame him. I like seeing that side of Kane. Dear writers, please keep writing Kane this way. It's nice. He has a backbone now. Yeah. Yes, that's how I feel too. I always want to love Kane. I always want to dig into him, and I think that Daniel Goddard, did I say Michael? I always want to call him Michael Goddard. I hope I didn't say that earlier, but Daniel Goddard is so good. He is good. He has a really unique delivery, and I want to see more of that, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Let's see. Daisy on Facebook says, in today's YNR chat, this is from last week, you mentioned another poster wondering if Avery had made it look like she was assaulted. I had a terrible thought. If Avery, for whatever reason, tried to make it look like she was assaulted, to really make it look like Joe did it, she could have used Lily's clothing to get Joe's DNA. Lily hasn't showered or changed, so Joe's DNA would still be on her clothes. I'd be really upset if that happens, and I can see why Jessica Collins would leave because of it, but I hope not. I'd rather see the Joe's brother theory be true about maybe it was Matt Clark. But I really just wanted to mention that comment because I thought, there's still a possibility that Avery is unstable. I mean, I will say I have to give it up to Gary, who had called into my voicemail late this week and was really the one that helped me put together the pieces on what I thought would happen. He said that he thinks Avery's going to shoot Joe, then the real rapist will be found, and Avery will start to go insane from there, and maybe, you know, that's how she'll end up going off the show. And to me, that just makes sense, especially given Paul getting that phone call. But I think there's still, I mean, I don't know spoilers and all that. I stay away from spoilers at all costs. But I kind of wanted to mention Daisy's comment, because I do kind of wonder if there's still that element in there that's going to keep Joe in trouble for this. I don't know. Connor had called into my voicemail and said, looking at Abby in the business outfit, and that business outfit was like looking at Courtney in her cop outfit. That really made me laugh, because that's how I felt too. Abby comes into Newman Abbott and she's wearing this stuffed collar. I mean, she's all collar, you know. I mean, there's no skin whatsoever. It's nothing like how we think of Abby, and it was so unbelievable the way she was trying to carry herself as this big businesswoman now. It was exactly like seeing Courtney, the bubbly blonde, putting on the blue and black outfit. But Connor says, I felt bad for Abby in that moment, the way Victoria and Billy pounced on her. That's because you got a good heart, Connor, because I felt the same way, and I know it's because of my heart. You know, like, I can't see anybody getting down on, even though Abby's ridiculous. I don't really like the character. I don't really like the actress. I can't help myself. I can't stand to see anybody getting picked on. Bobby on Facebook says, with Abby as the COO, we're going to be seeing more of her. Oh no. If she says I want to ride on that big rig one more time, I'm going to throw up. Okay, you guys, I just wanted to do a couple quick comments this week because I gotta get going. But I hope everything worked out with the new video and the audio and all that good stuff, and I'll continue to tweak the process as we move along. But I also hope you guys love YNR and you keep leaving me your comments. You can go to yrchat.com. From there you can leave a comment right on the blog. You can also see all the other stuff I have put up there. Let's see, you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can leave a voicemail directly through the website, or you can call the number directly at area code 309-588-4569. Whatever works for you. I listen to and read every single comment that comes in, and I try to pluck out the ones that I think are kind of go with the flow of what I'm talking about for the week, and try to read some of those in the end. I can't get to every single one, but I read and listen to every single one. Please know, no doubt. Okay, so I guess that's it. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.